You know, I used to always hear people say, you know, alcoholism and addiction is not a willpower problem. It's not because the person doesn't have willpower or no self-discipline, which is true. They did not develop a problem with drugs or alcohol because they were selfish or they were undisciplined or they didn't care about anybody or anything like that. It's not about that. But using drugs and alcohol over a long period of time will create a willpower problem. So it's definitely like drugs and alcohol, then willpower problem, not the reverse. Managing your willpower in early recovery is super important. So if this is your loved one, I want you to understand how that works and what that looks like so that you can be aware. I guess I would say it's not your job to manage your willpower, but I just want you to understand how this works, okay? And then you figure out what to do with it. Willpower is like, it works organically in your brain like anything else, and it runs off of little ATP molecules, which are like the little sugar molecules floating around in your bloodstream that everything works off of. The best way to think of it is it's like your gas tank, okay? It's your emotional gas tank. And when you sleep at night, gotta get those good 7 hours at least, your gas tank gets full and you have a full tank of willpower to last you throughout the day. Now, even if you're not an addict or an alcoholic, listen closely because everybody can relate to this. This works the same for everybody. So you sleep at night, you get that full willpower. You know how it is like when you wake up in the morning and like a lot of times it's like no, not when you first wake up, I know you're grumpy, but you know, like just after that when you get going, you're in your best part of the day, you feel good, you have positive attitude, you're like, I'm gonna eat good today, I'm gonna do my exercise, I'm gonna get a bunch of stuff done, and you're like, yay, I'm gonna conquer the day. And then as the day goes on and you get tired and work comes at you and then you didn't have time to eat lunch, so you ate a candy bar and then everything just sort of piled up on you. By the end of the day, you're like, I don't care, I am not going to the gym, I'm so exhausted, I am going home and just screw it, and I'm not making no dinner tonight either, I'm picking up McDonald's or whatever it is. Like at the end of those hard days, you're like out of willpower because as you're going through the day, your brain is using up the gas in the gas tank. And let me give you some examples of what uses it up. Every time you avoid eating the cookie, every time you avoid yelling at your boss or screaming at the driver who pulled out in front of you, every time you're nice to your coworker who you really can't stand, every time you do some stupid task at school that you think is ridiculous and is dumb, you don't even know why you're doing it, but you have to do it anyway. All of those things where you're like resisting temptation and being responsible and forcing yourself to do stuff, it's like gas out the gas tank, gas out the gas tank. And so as you're doing those things, you're running through your gasoline. And if you do a whole lot of those things, you run out of gas quicker. In early recovery, you are resisting drinking and drugging. That pretty much takes like all your willpower plus some. So you're just like, you sleep and then your gas tank is full, but then you're like, don't drink, don't drink, don't drink. And so you're resisting. So you run out of gas quickly. This is the main reason why some people have to go away to inpatient treatment in order to get sober. It's because it is so difficult to like live regular life, you know, like not eat the cookie and not yell at the boss and do your work and be responsible. All those normal everyday willpower things, they're using all those up with the not drinking and using. And when you put those other life stressors on top, then they go through it even faster, and sometimes they run out and they end up drinking or using. Because when the dam breaks, it breaks. If you're trying to manage a super ton of life stressors and not drink and use, sometimes you just run out of gas. So what I tell people in early recovery is, right now, your job is to stay clean and sober. Like that is your number one job, above and more important than anything else. I mean, it's cool when you see people do this because I like it and I'm excited for them, but they're like, you know what, I'm just ready, I got my life together, like I'm on a diet, I'm gonna run every day, I'm gonna get in shape and I'm gonna quit drinking and I am just so ready to be done with this. I love that, like that's exciting and I'm super glad that person feels that way. But then I say, but let me tell you about your willpower, because if you're like going on a diet and you're making yourself run and you're stopping smoking and you're doing all this stuff and you're in those like first weeks of early recovery and you're trying to stop using and drinking, you're just running through that willpower way too fast, and a lot of times you just hit the wall and it all just falls apart. One thing at a time. Their number one job is don't drink or use.